Was it something in my walk, how I talk, giving off the wrong energy? Was it something in my stride, too much pride, telling you to back down? Slowly, slowly you became my enemy. But you can't seem to get enough of me. So if this is the last time, I guess I better make it worthwhile. Yeah, if this is the last time, I guess I better give it my all. So if this is the last time, I guess I better make it worthwhile. Yeah, if this is the last time, I guess I better give it my all. Was there something in my walk, how I talk, giving off the wrong energy? Was there something in my stride, too much pride, setting you back down? Slowly, slowly you became my enemy. But you can't seem to get enough of me. So if this is the last time, I guess I better make it worthwhile. Yeah, if this is the last time, I guess I better give it my all. So if this is the last time, I guess I better make it worthwhile. Yeah, if this is the last time, I guess I better give it my all.
Hey, what's up? Music from like 2015, still blast though. Hey, from Canada, thank you for joining, Natakappa. Olaf Harthung in the chat as well. Still waiting for my wallpaper. So I think it's pretty much fair to say that everybody can request a free. Hey, Louis in chat as well. Everybody can go and request their free wallpaper or background zoom image from Olaf. He's been making them to everybody except me. So just saying, yeah, everybody can ask now since I asked as well. So I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for that. Vaden also in the chat today. Thank you. Avanatisine also in the chat today. So glad to see you people. Today is going to be a good one. I had a blast the last chat or the last stream. So this is going to be even better. So basically we're playing around with PetitPotam, PrinterBug, how that can be used to target machines running WebDAV, and how we can abuse that to own the machines without even becoming any sort of domain admin or anything to own those specific machines. And it's really interesting because I used this attack path last week to not only obtain domain admin credits, but also to jump between two forests. It was a long, weird attack path, but it was really cool, and it got me thinking to maybe do a stream about this. Thank you for the follow, Trunsky. I need to fix that sound. Where is that sound coming from? That like subscription sound? Is that the alert box? Might be, who knows. But yeah, everybody can basically request their own wallpaper from Olaf now. He's just giving them out. Damn you. You can also use those SE in-person privilege escalation. Yeah, right. Right. So if you're on the actual systems, you can use, and you have SA impersonation, you can use either one of the other printer or RPC to escalate. And I think that actually got merged into Sweet Potato. Me googling Sweet Potato and expecting the GitHub page to be the first hit. Me getting pictures of sweet potatoes, basically. So I think last month, apparently, there were a commit to Sweet Potato, which has this. Oh, nice. That's a very typical example of the SA impersonation privilege abuse. Oh, so happy that we were able to catch it live, dude. Welcome. Thank you so much for watching, or watching the previous uploaded streams. At some point, I might start making like proper YouTube videos, which are edited and a lot easier to watch, because I get that watching through an entire stream to get like you know, key pieces of information can be a bit boring. But as of now, I simply don't have time to spend more time on the YouTube and stuff. So glad you could catch the stream live though. Okay, so let's get this started. Let me reduce the music volume a bit more. Maybe this is fine. Okay, I don't think you can even hear it right now. Is this fine? I'll just check that everything's up and running here. Awesome possum. Then, yeah. All good, awesome. Okay, let me switch over here. So we're going to go through a couple of scenarios today. And I also gotta scale my VM accordingly. Give me a second. 120 by 980. Where you at? 980. Oh, I hit it exactly. Awesome. No, I didn't. What happened? Okay, just outlet of that. Okay, whatever. Sure. Okay, so the first scenario we'll be taking a look at is using. Okay, so I'll just talk a bit about PetitPotam and PrinterBug and all that stuff, right? So currently there are multiple ways of forcing a computer on the network to authenticate to an IP using UNC paths. And that authentication attempt will be coming out as SMB, and then we can relay that authentication attempt to other hosts on the network that does not have SMB signing on. Hey, Eric's in the chat as well. What's up, Eric? So before there was the printer spooler bug, or the PrinterBug, or the printer spooler, whatever. It's basically if a machine has the printer spooler service running, and you have a set of normal user credentials, domain credentials, you can force that service to authenticate back to you by giving it a UNC path. And then again, you'll relay that, and hopefully you can gain something from it, right? Again, that was authenticated. And then PetitPotam came along, or I would say, I guess, the RPC calls that PetitPotam uses, which an unauthenticated host on the network can call and make active on the machine, or bind to, I should say. And then you can force authentication attempt again from an unauthenticated attacker. So you'll drop into a network, you'll force an authenticate, or you'll force an authentication attempt from, say, the domain controller back to you, and then you can do whatever, right? Hey, SVN, yeah, Eric. And there's a couple of ways people have been using this. So one way would be to relay between computer accounts that typically, I know it isn't really that typical, but that has or may have administration privileges across another computer account or local admin. One such instance is with SCCM, which we actually got clarified after last week's stream with Oddvar telling us that when a sysadmin deploys the SCCM main site, he is actually prompted to give the service account or the computer account local admin privileges to the other servers you want to deploy subsites to, or I think it's called distribution sites, distribution points, right? And if you don't clean that up afterwards, it might be an issue, because then I can force your SCCM main site to authenticate back to a subsite or a distribution point, and if that authentication attempt has, or if that main computer account has admin privileges, I basically have an SMB session on the computer with admin privileges, and I can run a secret dump. I can get the machine account NT hash, and I can authenticate using that, or dump LSA, dump LSAS, all that good stuff, right? Right, so as int 128 comments here, SCCM, Exchange, and Citrix are also common places where a computer is an admin to another computer. And it's definitely something when I get to the point in the pen test where I run Bloodhound and I collect all the data to get a broad view of what's going on in the network, that's definitely one of those things I look for. I look for computer accounts having admin to other computer accounts, and actually let me share that Bloodhound query with you guys. So I have a really half outdated GitHub repo, which I'm with one modified Bloodhound query based on some others list of Bloodhound query. I'm just gonna link it in the chat if you're interested. I always check for that because it's so easy these days to basically force authentication either as an authenticated user or as an unauthenticated user. Yeah, you can't post links here. I'm so sorry. If you send me on Discord, I can forward it, Eric. But yeah, nobody can post links in this chat right now. Right, so one of those things to look for. Another thing that you do with forcing, wow, English is hard today, I'm sorry. Another thing you can do if you can force an SMB authentication attempt back to you is that you can attempt to downgrade it. So this is and by downgrading it, instead of getting the NTLM v2 SSP in, you would get NTLM v1 or NTLM v1 SSP. Then you can send that over to crack.sh. If you don't know about crack.sh, check it out. It's basically a free, or most cases, a free cracking service where they use large set of rainbow tables, and you can even crack computer accounts as long as this challenge is static. And that's great, but it's something that we're starting to see a lot less of because people are remediating it, and that's great. Obviously, we want the clients to be secure as possible, So if you're not able to downgrade it and you can't find any computer accounts that you can relay to that have administrative privileges, what can you do with it? If you have an authenticated PetitPotam on a computer and you can't downgrade the hash to access the computer directly, you can't relay it to another computer and it happens to have admin privileges in that computer, you can't really do anything. You can browse shares, but you can't really do anything. What do you do? And this is where WebDAV comes in, basically. And it's also where PrinterBug comes in and the SOX functionality of NTLM Relay. So let me show you what I ended up doing for basically the last week's gig. So what happened is that I found... so just a note for this stream, I'm running the Pochetta Industries branch of CraftMap Execute. So some features here, the modules I'm using, I think particularly the WebDAV module hasn't been released on the public GitHub repo yet. Just a heads up, so you don't pull your hair out while you can't find that. But let's just pretend that we're like enumerating the network or whatever, and we found two computers, the domain controller and a host, right? And the domain controller is vulnerable to unauthenticated PetitPotam. So if I go over to PetitPotam and I target that domain controller, so the target would be, so the way PetitPotam works is you gotta cd into its folder, git clone PetitPotam, is that you can use it unauthenticated or authenticated. So again, I see a lot less unauthenticated hosts than I see authenticated vulnerabilities because Microsoft remediation steps for fixing unauthenticated PetitPotam is rather straightforward. Microsoft remediations for fixing authenticated PetitPotam is either non-existing, or it revolves using RPC filters, which will just break so much functionality on the network. So it's a hard thing to remediate. Be cautious of that when you do this against clients. It's a hard thing to remediate as of now. But basically, you give it username, password, and domain if you want to. And you have to give it a listener and a target. So the listener IP would be your attack, the IP that you're performing the attack from, or the IP you want to capture the inbound authentication attempt from. And then the target IP would be the host you're targeting. So in this case, I'm running on IP 133, so I'll do PetitPotam 192.168.58.133, and then I'm going to target my domain controller, which I recall was 111. Yes, I can. Oh, I swear to God, I know how to do this. Like 15? There we go, much better, eh? And that will trigger an unauthenticated PetitPotam, which will trigger authentication attempt back to me. Right? So in that case, I would have received an SMB authentication attempt. Now, let's fire up Responder and let's just see what that looks like. So I just fired up normal version of Responder, no options. If I trigger this, we should see an NTLM hash inbound. Give me a second, I'll retrigger it. Give me a second, I'll retrigger it. Oh, come on, don't be like this. So I don't know if it's cached or whatever. Yeah, I think sometimes it gets cached. Oh damn, I'm fucking up already, people. So early. Or Responder is already running. No, it wouldn't be able to bind if Responder was already running. Let me just do this again here. Yeah, I have no idea why this worked the minute yeah, it's, or is that the same one? Yeah, that is the same one. I swear to God it works, okay? It just doesn't right now. Oh my God, I'm drunk. So, thank you so much, guys. So I modified my responder config earlier to play around with NTLM relay. So thank you for catching that. Really appreciate that. Makes a whole lot much more sense. There we go. Responder's up and running. Let's see it now. Give it a couple more tries. HTTP is on and SMB is on. Oh, it is the right correct listener IP. Okay, there we go. So we captured the inbound hash, right? And obviously this is an NTLM v2 SSP computer account hash, so cracking this outright is pretty much impossible. But usually people try, you know, the --LM downgrade option. If you're running the Pochetta Industries fork of responder, there's something called disable ESS, which which I have. Which you could also try to downgrade the hash. But I know it's enabled, so it won't work in this instance. So okay, you can't downgrade it, what can you do, right? Yeah, you don't see like the very bottom of it. There we go. Thank you. Makes it a bit easier for you guys. Okay, so you can't downgrade it. The computer account in this instance doesn't have admin privilege to anything. What can you do, right? So one thing that I ended up doing last week is just relaying to any computer in the domain that doesn't have signing, and then you can trigger either PetitPotam again or PrinterBug on that host using the socks from NTLM relay. Right? So in this case, so we would set that up by modifying responder first, or technically don't need to do that, just leave responder off. And then we'll set up NTLM relay. So NTLM relay run as sudo, and then we want to target just any host on the network to get. So we would target the same host we would want to run PrinterBug or PetitPotam against. Because once you get the SOC session going, you can only authenticate to that target, of course, because that's where the session is going. So you specify either a target or a target list. So -tf, and then you give it a text list with targets you wanna hit, or just T for one single target. In this case, we'll hit this one desktop, right? And then we'll do -socks, and we'll have that running. Oh, sorry, we also need SMB2 support. Right, so what happens now when I trigger PetitPotam is that I get an active an SMB session on my host as the computer account that I targeted initially. So now you can actually proxy chain or socks proxy PrinterBug or PetitPotam through this session and get to trigger an authentication attempt from this host again. Right? So what you could do from getting raided, he handles raids. I'll take it. Or is it a bot? Hey, Furio. Okay, so we have this thanks for the raid, I guess. Right? So we have an outbound SMB authentication attempt now going on that host, so we can use that authentication attempt through socks proxy and trigger PrinterBug from that host. I'm sorry I'm having issues speaking today. I don't know why I'm having issues speaking today. Okay, cool. Okay, so now we need to configure proxy chains to use the SOC session, and then we can either force PetitPotam or PrinterDebug through that, or PrinterBug through that. Okay, so let's just go into the proxy chains config. So this should be the default port that NTLM relay uses when creating SOC sessions is 1080. So just create a SOCs for localhost and then 1080 on that. now we can either trigger PetitPotam or PrinterBug through it. So I'm going to do PrinterBug in this instance. So I already got that. PrinterBug. And there should be an option for no pass, which we want to use. We also want to use no ping. And then you can adjust the timeout. I'm gonna read through the chat here later because there's definitely an interesting conversation going on. I'm just never gonna get through what I'm trying to get through if I start reading it. So we smack that through proxy chains. And then we give it a target and an attacker host, right? So the target, actually, sorry, we have to give it a, the target here is the typical in-packet target structure. So it's going to be what NTLM is set up as. So you can just copy this. Then the IP, which is 131. And then the attacker IP would be us. But so we don't really gain anything from this right now. Yeah, we could gain something by attempting to either downgrade this SMB authentication coming in, so we can crack the anti-lash off the computer account, or we could relay this to say in a computer again that has, if it has local admin privileges on another computer. But one thing that we haven't talked about where this comes in is the WebDAV, right? So if we go over to the lab host here and we check out services, this is just typical Windows 7 host. We can see that the web client service is running. And this is interesting because this allows us to, instead of giving it, so we still give it a UNC path for it to trigger authentication and back to us using. But if we do an @80 and then a slash and something, we can force it to be HTTP instead as long as the web client is running. And if we get an HTTP authentication attempt inbound, then we can relay that to LDAP-S and perform a resource-based constraint delegation. And what's cool about this is that, well, or I guess things to note about this is that obviously the web client service has to be running. That can actually be enumerated using crapmap.exec if you have the latest release. There's a module called WebDAV. You have to give it credentials for this, so I know it doesn't really match our scenario. Web client is running, right? Or yeah, web client is running. So you would know this before you did the first step I did now, targeting it, that you would take any computer account on the network that has that is vulnerable to unauthenticated PetitPotam, and you would relay that to a computer account or a computer on the network that has web client running. And now you can use either again PetitPotam authenticated using that session, SOC session, or PrinterBug using that SOC session to trigger authentication and back to you over HTTP using the web client trick. Wow, we're almost at 50 viewers. That's insane. Never hit that much. Okay, so let's try to set this up. So what you would need to do is that you would need to have responder. Okay, so the caveat about web client is that you can't do it using an IP. There's something called zones. Let me see if I can actually find the documentation on this. So Microsoft zones. Yeah, this is the documentation I'm referring to. So if you scroll all the way down to that page, you see a blue bar with like the important tag, and it says that even if you try to add, so there's something called zones, and for us to be able to perform HTTP authentication, it has to be on the intranet zone, and IPs. It has to be a host name. It's explained in that bottom part. So you have to use the host name when you do this trick, or it won't get the HTTP session back. It will come up as unauthenticated session back. Right. So we need the host name. we need to use our hostname. So two things you can do: you can either use the hostname of the machine you're at, or you could just fire up responder and use the hostname that responder assigns you, right? So when you fire up responder, you're gonna get this variable, and then you can use that. So to set this up, to get this working, we first need to configure responder to only, to not take up the SMB and HTTP port, because we don't want responder capturing that. We just want it to poison in that initial host name. So we need to turn off SMB. We need to turn off HTTP, and then we'll run responder, right? And then, obviously, so we can't stop NTLM relay because we want to use the session that it has, right? But we want to create a new NTLM relay for redirecting to LFS. So you could just do stop servers, and it will stop the current running servers, but still keep the SOC session active. Then we need to start another NTLM relay session, and we need to target LDAPS, right? And then we need to say -- delegate access, and then I think that should be it. So when we're successfully triggering the outbound, or for us it would be the inbound HTTP connection, we take that, we relay that to LDAPS to create a new computer account, which can use the S4U proxy to impersonate any user on the computer account it's coming from. And you can read much more about that. Am I using the wrong version? Oh yeah, this is that version. Ah. But that's the same version I'm using here, right? Okay, there we go. And now responder is running, so the host name will resolve. We know that web client is running on the host, and the SOC session is still up, and the another NTLM session is still. The other NTLM relay session is set up to create a service account or a computer account with an SBN set for SU proxy to be any user on the machine. So we now need to specify the target. So we use responder. We use this. We do @80 / whatever you want. I think. Now this should theoretically work. I'm gonna say that with it theoretically. So it's binding the handle, which means that the proxy session is successfully initiated. And it worked. Whoop whoop. Okay. So it got an inbound HTTP request, it redirected that to LDAPS, it created a new computer account with this username and password, and it basically says that this computer account can now impersonate any user on this other computer account. So now we can copy this. I guess we can just stop this now. And we need to request a TGS using these credentials for the host service, so we can use VMI exec. Or one thing that Impact actually does when you use the different modules, especially when using Kerberos TGS, is that it will just switch out the different like service prefixes, host and CIFS and SPSS, all that. It would just change that up on runtime and try to authenticate, basically trying to debug the issue for you. So it doesn't really matter that much, but let's do host. So we need to run get TGS. .py, right? Give me a second. Pretty sure it's get TGS. Get ST. Yeah, get ST it is. Yeah, get ST, you're right. My bad. So we have to give it the identity at the end. I'm gonna link the... So Dirkan had a post about this way back, but for him to get this working, he used the -- remove mic command in NTLM relay, which exploits like an integrity check, so you can relay from SMB to HTTP, because normally you can't do that, or to LDAPS that is. I'm gonna link it. It's this one, right? So the SPN you would want would be the host for that computer account. So for this, and then you need a fully qualified domain name for the computer account, which is going to be this .legitcorp.net. Basically following his blog at this point. And you're going to give it the credentials. That's going to be legitcorp.net, the computer account name, this computer account name, this password, and the user we want to impersonate. Oh, impersonate. I guess just administrator, right? Then might want to give it a DCIP so it can hold the result correctly. There we go. Now we can use this ticket to authenticate using VME exec. So we need to, I think it's PRB. There we go. Need to set the environments or variable for Kerberos authentication, and then we can do VME exec. I think it's -K, right? So I should do actually, let's bring up the help menu. So it's -K to use Kerberos, and then it's the domain and username. So now we want to authenticate on behalf of the administrator account, right? So we want to use the legitcorp.net /administrator. We're using Kerberos. We don't need to give it a password, and we need to give it a target name, which would be 131, right? That's where the inbound connection came from. Yep. Then we need to give it a DCIP again. Let's also give it no pass to avoid being prompted for that. Ooh, no ass. Print authentication failed for invalid information. So that's typically related to but we are authenticating as the administrator user, right? You think this needs to be fully qualified? I have a cheat sheet for a server, so I can pull it up if all else goes wrong, but yeah, I'm thinking that as well. Might need, yeah. Then I need to resolve that, so. Kerberos is weird that way, or Kerberos is really picky that way. No. Been here before, I just can't resolve, I can't recall the fix for it. Let me check my cheat sheet for this. Off screen here. But this is basically what happens every time you work with Kerberos. You think you understand Kerberos, but you never really do. It's always something, man. I promise you. It's always something. always something. No, this should be the correct one. Administrator at desktop legitcorp.net. Legitcorp. Oh, legitcorp.net. There we go. So it worked, right? So now, okay, whatever. So now we get as shell on the host, as the domain administrative user impersonated using the S4U proxy protocol on the machine. Basically from this is basically from Authenticator, right? So to try to explain this better, I'm gonna drink some coffee. But basically, if you're on a network and you find any computer with unauthenticated PetitPotam, you have another computer which you want to own, which has both web client running and it has doesn't have SMB2 signing, right? Which would typically, it would rarely be a server. It would typically be some sort of workstation or machine. For servers, really rarely have WebDAV running unless it's for a specific purpose on the server. So it might be worth looking to target workstations related to maybe the IT group or administrators on the network or some other target. Then you can use the authenticated PetitPotam to relay an SMB session to that target machine. Once on the target machine, you can use the session, again the authenticated session, to trigger either PrinterBug or PetitPotam. Relay that back using the WebDAV trick, right? Relay that back to LDAP-S and then get a computer account with an SPN set that can impersonate any user on that computer. You create a TGS or a TS service ticket, ST service ticket. You specify hosts, and then you can log on using VMXSec. Another thing that most people, or that I'm not going to say most people, but that some people doesn't know, that VMXSec actually has something called silent command, which doesn't do all that detectable bullshit with dropping I think it drops a bat file to get the output and stuff. But then again, you get no output. So if the approach would be to use SMB client to upload a backdoor, DLL, exe, whatever, and then use vmexec with the -silent command argument to trigger that DLL or whatever to move laterally onto it. That could be an easy way to do that, right? So this doesn't actually support any output. But yeah, so that's one way to do it, and obviously you could do secret stumps now as well. So no, so this, I'm only impersonating the administrator user on this machine. This administrator user is not valid on any other machine on the network, only on this targeted machine. But from VMXSec, well, it doesn't have PowerShell functionality built in. You can certainly, I think you can just I think you can just PowerShell, right? But now you won't get any output because now it's locked into another process, right? So you would have to, I would only use VMXX for initial execution of whatever you're actually using to control the machine. Other things you can do with this, obviously you can, what I ended up doing last week is that if there's an, so last week I had the weird scenario where the certificate authority service, okay. So for people in the chat as well, what are some other more stealth ways you can get shell execute commands with Kerberos Authentication creds? So one of the stealthy ways I can talk about or explain would be abusing an existing DLL hijacking vulnerability on the machine. So say you know the machine is a typical workstation, right? You can use SMB client, which is relatively like, obviously it's got a trigger probably, or you could use SMB client to enumerate the shares and the files and try to find an application on the machine which is DLL hijackable or side loadable, and then just upload a simple DLL and wait for the execution to happen on that side. Right? I guess most detections will catch the initial create servers thing. That is very typical. Basically PSXX, right? PowerShell remoting is also a thing, but then you're in PowerShell. I would probably do it with SMB client, like the basic SMB client in Packet, or just the other SMB client, the native one, right? So a lot of the time, secret dump isn't really detected, and I know that sounds stupid, but honestly, a lot of the time, secret dump isn't detected. That's also something you can do. And you can hope that there's some creds in LSA. You can use now the actual machine account hash to authenticate. You can use the local account, whatever. You can try to crack these. These are relatively hard to crack, but if the passwords are weak, you're definitely able to have success with it. So PetitPotam seems like a great stream so far. Just got her, but why just chatting versus science plus tech? So there's actually a petition to get Twitch to add the cybersecurity category for streams, which I'm really hoping goes through, because there's no really matching category right now for the stream. Yeah, I guess, right? And then K files could also be a thing. Just scrolling up in the chat here, trying to see if I get some. Right, there's a lot of DLL, yeah, because at this point you basically have admin on the machine, so you can hijack. There are a bunch of System 32 DLL hijacks you can do. There's a bunch of other you can basically just proxy DLL any DLL on any installed application that you think the user uses. In my mind, the biggest sort of advantage you can give yourself when moving laterally is to make it specific for the machine you're moving to. From a defensive perspective, it's really hard to track down like 15 different specific techniques used to persist, right? If you're creating services across the board, it's relatively easy to detect, but if you're doing something specific for each of the machines, it's harder to detect, and it's harder to go back over, right? Yeah, I really hope the cybersecurity category goes in. Right, so so that's funny that the silent command did the trick. But I mean, if you run it without the silent command, let me show you what it looks like in debug. It creates like it does so much crap. No, it doesn't show all the crap it does. But it runs like a whole bunch of weird CMD commands to get this output. It looks bad. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna plug that actually. If people haven't voted for that category, anybody have a link? Category Twitch cybersecurity category. Yeah, Twitch user voice. I'm gonna link it. Please go. So it has over 2,000 votes. I think it's actually like the first place right now in the category suggestions. Yeah, it is the first place in the category suggestions. So go vote on that. For sure. It would be much easier for us. I would love to show you the SCCM stuff, but I don't have that set up in my lab. So I guess I could try to like... Give me a second. Thank you for the follow, Random Cyberram. Right, silent command is a lot better. Okay, so let me see. Now I am definitely not an administrator or sysadmin. So let me see if I'm not stupid enough to do this. So computers, let's say. So the computer here would be this one, which was desktop Engmo. So this. Oh, it's on the computer management. We're just gonna follow this tool at this point. Or this blog here. I'm such a shitty sysadmin. But I think I'm gonna prioritize answering the questions. So it could definitely be a separate. That might be a good stream idea. Looking into more SCCM stuff, because there's a bunch of stuff you can do with it. So one thing is gaining access to it, but once you're in SCCM, you can use that to deploy to any machine enrolled in SCCM on the network, right? Might also look into using SCCM distribution points to gather hashes by dropping files that could relay back to us or could connect back to us. So the I can't recall if offshore or Rasta Labs is like the easiest AD related lab in HEB in Hectorbox. I think either of those. So the SCCM to stream. Dante might be the easiest, Pramda says. Okay. Let's just see if I can do it from the actual machine here. So let's just open a new CMD prompt. And I would just add DC. Oh my god, what did I just do? Nobody saw that. Nobody saw that. Rasta's certified red team operator course is fucking awesome. However, it's definitely an intermediate thing, I would say. 100%. Okay, let's see if that works. Maybe it's that easy. What is happening to this window now? My bad, people. Yeah, so that worked. Okay, so regarding the SCCM relaying stuff, what you would do is that you would target a computer account that has admin to another computer account using PetitPotam. You would use NTLM relay to relay to that computer account. And when you use the -socks option in NTLM relay, so it's the target SMB2 support and then -socks, you will actually see that the socks sessions claims that the computer account is admin. And now you could basically just use, I think you can use secrets dump through this. Let's see. If I could type, you know, that'd be great. Connection refused. Am I drunk? So don't have a relay for it, so it can't find it. I need to use the legit corp, not legitcorp.net. And I also need to use single shards. Yeah, that works because that works. So again, yeah, this is the scenario where an administrator, where a computer account has admin or local admin privileges on another computer account. Target the initial one, relay to the victim computer account. You get this amazing SOC session. You set up proxy chains to use port SOX 4 and then port 1080, and then you can just pipe secret dump through it and dump it. Third World Gang, what the fuck? I've never done Pentester Academy. Eric, you still there? You had like one major one, right? Oh yeah, no, the Pentester Academy is the one with the fucking huge ass labs, right? No, so what's, yeah, no, neither OSCP or OSEP have much AD, right? I'm gonna be honest, not a huge fan. No, not a huge fan of the offensive security certs. Might be a very unpopular opinion, but generally not a huge fan at all about those certs. I think particularly the OSCP one is. I'm not gonna say it's like luck or anything like that, but the OSCP is still outdated. I get that when you're doing the OSCP, you're supposed to learn the basics, perform enumeration, grind it out, find the exploits, in some cases modify it, and then do the thing. I get it. I get that's the point of the OCP, but for me taking the OCP, it was just, I mean, just a pain. Like, yeah, no. Not a huge fan. Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to cover the basics. When I did my OCP exam, one of my boxes crashed during Nmap scans. So I had to figure out that my box died during Nmap scan. No, sorry. So the box didn't die, but the service I was supposed to exploit died after every single Nmap scan. So I had to reboot the box multiple times before I got the catch that the service I was supposed to exploit crashed during the Nmap scan. Which I think, you know, if you don't pick up on that, you're gonna fail, and I mean that's just shitty, to be honest. But yeah. Wait, they increased the price? If I'm gonna be honest, if you're generally interested in InfoSec and you're building up knowledge, do blog posts, create shitty tools, do whatever. Try to get involved with the community. I'm not saying you should release everything like it's gold, but just saying that, you know, there's so much. I would argue that there's no need for many of the certs to be good in InfoSec. There's so much material out there these days. There's so much open source free material. Yeah, you having your own lab, setting up your own lab, getting to know both sides of attacking, definitely helpful. Yeah, I'm gonna plug my Discord for sure, so we can keep, if you guys want to hang after the stream and discuss with me or others. Give me a second here. No, but I genuinely don't feel like you have to spend money. Don't feel like you have to spend money on certificates. If you want to get good, spend the time. That's much better. Don't spend the money on the cert. I would never pay 1k for OCP. Not myself, at least. Yeah, for sure. It's cringy looking back at old blogs, thinking you thought you knew what you were doing, but then again, it's a learning curve, right? I mean, you can sure do both. Not like saying you shouldn't do both, but yeah, you don't have to. If you generally don't have the money or generally can't afford it, that shouldn't be what's gatekeeping you from getting into the industry. There's a lot of good value out there. A lot of good courses. A lot of YouTubers and Twitch people you can follow to learn stuff. That's me. right? OCP was cheap for a long time. I think the $300 bar for OCP that it had for a long time was decent. Everybody could afford it, right? Or no, I'm not gonna. Everybody, if they really wanted to, could save up and afford it, no matter where. But myself, not a huge fan of certificates. But yeah. So the good TTPs doesn't, you can't really, that's gonna sound really weird saying, but like the good TTPs you discover during engagement and you work on them and you develop them and you keep them for yourself. There's a reason, like, well, because that's how generally attackers would do it. They wouldn't share it, like proper ones. So what course is that, Cyber? One-on-one interaction? Is that the... Do they have one-on-one interaction for OCP now? Or what course are we talking about? I think more, yeah. Okay. Oh, they have that. I didn't know that. That might be able to defend that price increase a bit. Might be able to defend that a bit more. For sure. But there, like, there's a lot of solid YouTubers you can follow now, right? You have Cybermentor, you have Jack Hammond, right? Or did I... John Hammond, not Jack Hammond. John Hammond. And then you have Buffer Overflow. If you're really into the low-level stuff. Live Overflow, sorry. The site, I'm fucking up names. I can't speak today. I'm so sorry. Live Overflow, John Hammond, the Cybermentor. I think John Hammond's videos are really good because he creates them in a bit more enjoyable format. I don't... IPSec is a huge one. Hack the Box, IPSec. That was my entry. I worked as a developer for 2 years. And Hack the Box was my entry for joining the InfoSec. That was the only reason I got a job as a penetration tester when I started, was Hack the Box. The only reason. Had no other skill sets or could... I had some blog posts, that's it, but no search, nothing. Just Hack the Box and some blog posts. That's how I got my initial job as a penetration tester. So yeah, Hack the Box is great. I encourage everybody to do Hack the Box. I know that those boxes aren't going to be very realistic most of the time, but the general like mindset is the same. Like the general, you don't know what you're doing, you have never heard of this service before, you need to enumerate, you need to find out what's going on, you need to get the overview. That's the same. That's the same as in real life engagements. When I'm dropped onto networks, I have no idea what's going on. Absolutely no idea, right? It's the same thing. So Hack the Box, I can wholeheartedly really recommend. Especially, I guess, the labs, right? Having done the cybernetics labs, or cybernetic lab, which I'm guessing they're still expanding on, so I haven't done it. So, but Hack the Box can be... So, if I were to go back to Hack the Box now, I would probably struggle a shit ton. Because the mindset is different. My mindset now is to find things that I know users probably do wrong or misconfigure or stuff like that. That isn't necessarily the mindset with Hack the Box. It's a bit more unrealistic, but the methodology is the correct word. That's still the same. Cybermont, yeah, the free content is sure out there. Some even struggle with searching. Might imply on future difficulties with the profession, but still. No, so to compare it when like I'm not old, so I can't say like when I started, but like way back, that wasn't it. Way back, there were some backtrack videos about some kid hacking their neighbor's Wi-Fi because they had VEP instead of VPA. That was it back in the day. Before Hack the Box, before John Hammond, before Live Overflow, before people took the time to illustrate and explain and show and share and teach this stuff, it was way harder. Gladiator, 10 out of 10, dude. Open either SMB shares with no authentication or MSQL servers with default credentials, NFC shares with no authentication, hosting fucking backup files. Time after time, I'm never surprised when I see that VMware snapshot image on a file share that I can download, and I find the local admin password of all the machines because it's reused, right? That sort of stuff, and not yeah. Okay. So CVs, sure, if that's your way to go, that's your way to learn the stuff. CVs are great. I think they will hit some companies a lot harder. Some companies might be generally blown away if you come and say that you have a CVE. Some companies also know that the bar is rather, I won't say it's low, but there are a lot of weird CVEs out there that maybe shouldn't be CVEs, right? But yeah, no, either way, if that's your way of learning, cool. And it's also getting sort of value back in terms of, right? It's also value back in terms of getting recognition for what you do, for sure. Right? So, how long did you work in pentest before moving over to red team stuff? So I'm not experienced at all. Like I worked as a developer for a couple of years. I worked as a pen tester in Norway for some time, not long. And then I was very, very, very lucky. God knows how. I got picked up by TrustedSec. David Kennedy approached me. I was hired there, and now I work there. I still work under what's called the Force team in TrustedSec, which means I work as a penetration tester. I don't do the red team stuff now, but I do a lot of the I don't do it for customers as of now, but I do a lot of work regarding in TTPs and tools and research and stuff like that. And I'm hoping to move over to it officially very soon. Yeah, I work remote, so I work 100% remote out of Norway. So I sleep until with the different time zone, that is, right? So I some work days is like I sleep until fucking 12 a.m., like almost into the PMs, and then I work all into the night. I'm a workaholic. Hack the Box sometimes gets to the point where you are trying to guess how the machine designer is trying to trip you up. Correct. A lot of the Hack the Box machines are just trolls and are sometimes, rabbit holes. I hate rabbit holes. But some of them are a bit realistic and some of them are a bit fun. I tend to say that the more medium ones, which have a harder technical difficulty, is more fun, because those you don't fuck around that much with trying to pull out rabbit holes left and right. You waste time. It's more like, okay, I know this is the technical vulnerability, but how the fuck do I exploit it, right? Yeah, I work remote. How do you like pen testing at TSR's previous experience with other companies? So TrustedSec is, and then I think the one thing I want to say about TrustedSec is that the people who work there are so humble yet so talented. People like Adam Chester, who in my eyes is just a freaking technical genius, who can literally sit down a week and just come up with fucking semi-O-days like sandbox escapes for Max, right? But yet he's so humble. I can ask him stupid stuff all day long. he's still humble. He still explains it to me like not like I'm a child, but like on my level, right? And he's not flexing, and he's kind all the way through, and that's just awesome. I think one of the worst things is working with people who constantly thinks they're better than you, and constantly either doesn't want you to evolve, or doesn't help you evolve, or doesn't share information, or is just all tied up to themselves and occupied with trying to be the biggest or the shine the brightest or whatever. That's just annoying, and it's not something that TrustedSec has at all. The landscape is flat. I can message Dave if I want and just have a chat with him. I can call up him and have a chat with him, right? No, it's great. People there are great. I get to work with many big and amazing customers, and I get to learn and see from big environments, mature and unmature, and hardened and not hardened, and that's just amazing for me. And I honest to God, I have no idea how I managed to pick that up, how I managed to land a job there. Just like ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But yeah. Whew. What a great stream, guys, huh? I picked up my English at the end, so I can speak now. I actually had like a migraine this morning for like 4 hours. Just locked myself in a dark room. Had no idea where that migraine come from, but it was rough. So I'm glad I was a bit afraid I had to call off today's stream because of it, but super glad I didn't. But yeah. I think, just, you're never, what should I say? It's, I think we should be lucky to be in InfoSec. Oh, thanks for that, dude. I try my best, that's for sure. All I can give is effort. And then we'll see how far we can go about it. But, I think if you just ignore, there's a lot of crap going on in InfoSec, right? We laugh about the whole Twitter thing, and people tossing crap and dissing each other's C2s, apparently. Looking at my Twitter stream right now, people discussing and shitting on each other's C2 frameworks and stuff. But if you're like, I don't know how it is in what am I talking about, right? But I don't know how it is in your country, but right here in the the western part of the world and in the US, if you're established, if you know what you're doing in terms of InfoSec, if you can give the appearance, or obviously you want to know what you're doing, but if you can communicate that you know what you're doing in InfoSec, it's so easy. It's a worker's market. Like, getting a job in InfoSec these days is maybe it's just in my area, but like it's an increasing demand. The demand is extremely high. Right, so we're lucky to be in this industry and not have to work all over the place. So Gladiator here, agreed, there's no need for that. What makes our community great is we share with each other and we help one each other out. None of us is an expert at anything or owns any technique. It's built it's built on other people's work's knowledge, right? And that goes back to the meme about, oh, you think you know something new? Well, Subtease probably did it back in 2005, right? Or Harmjoy's already done it like 10 years back if you thought about something new. But that's definitely true. And I think that's something... I am not going to go into the OST debate, but I think that's something the defense side should learn from. Because we as an offensive people are just so good at sharing stuff and making each other better, and in that turn also spending our time making our finding more stuff for our clients and ultimately making our clients more secure, which is great. Yeah, so wait, the main reason I'm here is because of the public knowledge out there. Harmjor, Dirk, and Rasta, in the end, we all ride on each other's shoulders. For sure. I mean, just these last 3 weeks, I've exploited Active Directory certificate services, right? Would not have been possible if not for the amazing work from SpectreOps on the research. Would not have been possible for Dirkian taking that research and creating his own Python tools, releasing them for free as open source code, right? He could have kept them for himself. He could have used that for his consultant company and made money because he was one of the few with the Python tools or the Linux version of the tools to exploit it. No, he shared it open source so everybody can use it, so everybody can find the vulnerabilities and show them to the clients, and the clients can fix it. And that's what drives our innovation forward. A good example of this is when CCOB released the beacon detection tool or something. He released a blue team related tool where he basically used some technique. I think it was related to... I can't recall what it was related to, but he created a tool to detect Cobalt Strike beacons in specific running in memory for free, right? Imagine if other researchers on the blue side, if people working for the big companies, right, would do this, would share this. Wouldn't that ultimately result in people being more secure? Yes, it would. But then again, those companies wouldn't make as much money because they want to keep it to themselves. Sell it as a package for fucking a subscription fee per computer install the agent on, right? So yeah, that's a whole. I'm not gonna go. No way I'm going into that debate. But just it's just an interesting view to think about that. We are so good at sharing. Imagine if the other side were as good. Right? Everything's behind the paywall. One's gotta eat. Olaf is like, oh, that's me. No, Olaf is my exception, but like, not saying everybody's doing this. I'm just saying generally, I would say it's behind more of a paywall than offensive is. Microsoft is the main, like, Microsoft is just okay. Let's sell a fundamentally broken product. Let's call it, I don't know, Active Directory. Let's ship it full of fucking misconfigurations, right? And then to a bunch of people, and then they all install it, and then we put the protections that they should have gotten with that product behind the big ass paywall. And then we tell them, oh, if you want to fix this, you have to break your entire network. Basically referring to Microsoft telling companies to turn off NTLM authentication. Yeah, sure. Like any company with infrastructure dating back a couple of 10, 15 years is gonna have the possibility to fucking turn off NTLM authentication. That would break so much, dude. I have a client who can't turn off SMB signing because it breaks stuff. And you want me to turn off NTLM authentication? Like, what the actual duck? Right? Both goes with Bloodhound and Pinkcastle. Correct. You can run those like one dedicated guy doing security for a company could run those once a week and probably find most of the misconfigurations I find during a very expensive pen test. I would like to hear your views on C2, which when open source gets detected from the next weeks onwards. How do we manage this? I mean, EDR catching them. So... I have to say that there's so many options out there right now for C2, open source C2s, that I generally don't think we need anymore. I'm going to be honest with that. For smaller security companies, it's easy enough to pick up any open source C2, create a private fork, modify it, and you're good to go. You can use that on engagements. It's great for the blue team to be able to go through them and, you know, the blue team knows that all our network traffic usually goes through HTTPS listeners. They know that. They can detect that. They know that when we do fork and run operations, we communicate the information back between the processes using name pipes. They know that. They can detect that, right? Obviously, it's not that easy, but that's the gist of it. I think it's interesting to see. I said this on an earlier stream as well. I think Cobalt Strike is going to be dead in 10 years. Yep. I think Cobalt Strike is going to be dead in 10 years. I think the only ones who's left using Cobalt Strike is going to be malicious actors, like small ones, big ones. And I think we as an industry are either going to move on using open source ones, just modifying them because they're just as good, or buying ones from the likes of Ninja or MDSec or whatever, right? Right? And I think Cobalt Strike fucked up generally. Yeah, so I think Cobalt Strike fucked up generally when the main evil genius left. And also, like, how many features do we get from Cobalt Strike within a year? How much progress in terms... I would like to see the CS Cobalt Strike roadmap. Because the stuff is being pushed out so slowly these days that, like, open source projects are kicking their ass. I'm looking at these. I'm not gonna comment anything on like the different C2s you can buy, but looking at like Ninja C2, Paranoid Ninja C2, which I believe is called BRC4. He pushes at this point. He's pushing features and updates weekly or bi-weekly, right? Yeah, I get it. It's not battle tested. It's not tried and proved to be stable when deploying in the when deploying on the customers, and you could have a whole discussion about OPSEC and whether or not, you know, it's responsible to deploy something that haven't been used that much onto a client, whatever. But in terms of just features, innovation, pure ass innovation, Cobalt Strike is going to be dead very soon, I think. And yeah, adversaries is definitely, and I think adversaries are definitely going to be our main impact of that, right? Cobalt Strike was sold to basically everybody who had a company organization number. Except, of course, if you're actually known on Twitter and they don't like you, right? And it got leaked, it got cracked, and adversaries use it. So it's, yeah, that's it. In your opinion, which open source C2 is worth trying? So it depends, right? It depends on the client you're testing and what sort of maturity you're going up against. For a client, I like Empire. If you can still get away with PowerShell stuff, I like Empire. Empire is seeing a lot of solid development the last year, with BC Security picking it up and making it a solid C2. If you can get away with PowerShell and C#, Empire, sure. Covenant is good. Not a huge fan of the workflow in Covenant, but Covenant is good. If there's one C2, I think is going to be, yeah, that's the, if there's one C2, I think I would like to keep my eyes on. It's the one that Rastamas is developing. So that's Sharp C2, right? I think Sharp C2 is doing some interesting stuff. It's still in its infancy. It's not something I would ever deploy towards the client as of right now. But I would just keep my eyes on it. And I think it's going to be a great C2 once he sort of feels he's gotten like the 80% in there. Merlin, that's the, is that the Mythic, so is that the C2 provider, or is that a Mythic agent? Yeah, so that's the Spectre stuff, right? And I swear to God, I have wanted to try Mythic and Merlin and that stuff from Spectre Ops for so long, but it just seems very, very, like, it's obviously very advanced, right? You have to deploy a whole stack to get it up and running, and that's going to be great, but I think the initial learning curve for installation, deployment, and usage is relatively steep, and therefore myself, I haven't taken the time to look at it yet. All the other reasons as well, right? Next stream it is. Mythic is really cool though. Recently took RTO from Spectre Ops, was interested to learn they use multiple C2s during their operations. I think they, both the open source ones they develop and CS, right? So that's a good thing. I think if you have enough time and the client is mature enough, you can probably give them an extra value by doing that. Probably, definitely could do that. Mythic stream next, Apple and whatnot. I need to get some training done, dude. I haven't done training yet. I haven't done any training from any of the major providers yet. I want to do the ones from Spectre, and I also want to do the training from Outflank. I want to do the Outflank training. Next year, I suppose, right? Mac is going to be interesting, obviously. Yeah, that hasn't really evolved that much lately, I guess, with the M1 stuff. Maybe some. I know Adam Chester is on that. So, Offensive Security has a new certificate for Mac OS. Let's see, Offensive Security. OSMR. That's cool though. Mac OS control bypass. What do a Mac OS security researcher and Octus have in common? They both need skills and intelligence to adapt to any situation and make use of tools found natively in the environment to hunt their prey. This is cool though. That was pricey. But okay. Honestly, still don't really, at least the clients I've been given, not seeing much of Mac still. And even if it's still based on like an Active Directory infrastructure and you generally don't need to go through Mac to get to what you want. That's from a pen test perspective though, obviously going to be majorly different. That's expensive. I thought the whole point of offensive security was to keep the price low to avoid gatekeeping and like so everybody can get their cert out, but they obviously went away from that strategic module. Yeah, I know XPN is doing some amazing stuff on macOS. I don't want to talk about it because I'm afraid to say something I'm not supposed to say. But I know Adam Chester is doing some amazing research. And I know he posted some tweets about the bypasses he found so far. Took the Sans course in monetization. So they have to pay back Sans now. They owe like Sans like 2 years worth of income. That's why everything's up. Oh man, Sans. Let's not get into this. Let's not get into Sans, man. Sans. Yeah. My like 2 cents on Sans is that if you're working, again, depends on the company you're coming to. Some companies, depending on the size and depending on their like community engagement, usually either weigh the Sans certs way up or don't recognize them. Okay, maybe not recognize them, but is wrong. But like some companies definitely weigh the Sans certs as like the holy grail of certificates. But in my opinion, I would probably not. Yeah, no. Thank you so much for joining, Olaf. Still waiting for that wallpaper. Wallpaper. No, I'm kidding. Have a good one, Olaf. See you hopefully next stream. Have a great working Monday tomorrow. What was that? Ramada? So what are you referring to an offensive security straight up like dissed women or something? On there. Or what was that? They had like a pool or something? I can't recall. I recall this, but I can't recall the details. They had like a poll for women in InfoSec and it was just fucking ridiculous. Or extremely offending. What was that? Somebody recall that? Okay, I don't either. Well, I think we're gonna have to end it here, people. We had a lot of people reviews and chats, right? Today it was great. I think we actually peaked 50 viewers today, which is insane. Sad it's on the day I legit forgot how to speak. Really appreciate you saying that, Promna. Hope to see her next stream if you have time. So, if you guys don't know, I stream every Sunday, same times. That's 4 p.m. UTC. It's always cybersecurity infosec related. I have no idea what I'm doing next stream, so I'll come up with something throughout the week. This stream was really fun. I tried to keep it around an hour. We got a bit overtime today because of so many people being in the chat and views. So awesome. Really appreciate it. Hope to see all of you here next stream, and we'll see what I'll come up with. Have a great day. Get some rest. Tomorrow is Monday. Back to work. And see you all soon. Have a great weekend, guys. Or a great week, that is. Cheers.